guys, my name is Shiona Everett and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about movies. Actually, we are going to be talking about the ones who create them, the directors. And in case you're wondering why I'm wearing this hat, and let's just say I am trying to look like a French director. I know it's not working, but I wanted to go all in for this. So let's just roll with it. Coming back to our directors, if it wasn't for them, we would not be able to watch the magic on the screen. They are the ones that make us believe in this imaginary world. And for that brief moment, we forget that that world is imaginary, it's not real. They say cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. And isn't that true? You look at these movies on the screen and you know it's an imaginary world, but for that moment in those 2 hours, 2.5 hours, you forget that it's an imaginary world. They take you into this adventure with the characters themselves, and that's the magic these directors create. Talking about directors, as you know, each director has their own unique style. Now, some are very obvious, like you know it's their movie as soon as you see a trailer of the film. And some are slightly subtle. Of course, if you're a movie buff or you're someone who studied film studies and things like that, you will be able to tell it's a particular director's style. But if you're someone like me who's just learning all of this and it's new to the field and you haven't studied the nitty-gritties of directing or anything of that sort, then you will come to know slowly after watching many of the films that you will see a pattern. There is a certain substance in their movies that makes it theirs. Today, we are going to be talking about two legends, Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan. Let us begin. Christopher Nolan, the man behind Memento, Inception, Interstellar, The Dark Knight, The Prestige, and all these wonderful movies that he has created. Nolan has directed about 14 movies and he has produced and written many others. Nolan's movies broke conventional cinema. He is known for these complex plots and storylines that people often get confused while watching them. However, everything comes together in the end. It's like it forms a perfect circle. When you watch his movies and you reach the ending, you feel like you found the missing piece of that puzzle and you have fixed it, and now you can see the entire picture. Nolan's movies covers themes like the nature of reality, the relativity of time, the identity crisis people go through, and a lot of these complex themes. He makes people question about the universe out there. Now let's talk about his style. Nolan is known for making movies with non-linear timelines. Take Inception, take Interstellar. Inception, you go a dream within a dream within a dream. People often get so confused they forget which is reality. Talking about Interstellar, the father goes into space, and now since time is relative and the only thing that can pass through is gravity, he tries to communicate with his daughter through gravity. The confusing part is he has not aged because time is relative. Over there he is still young. However, when he comes back to Earth, his daughter has aged, his son has aged. His daughter is on her deathbed when he finally reaches Earth. And the entire plot can get confusing, but it is very interesting if you watch it. Moving on to the next point, Nolan is also known for showing his movies in a character's point of view. So as the audience, we get to see only what the character knows. If there is something that the character is not aware about, then we are also not aware about it. This helps in creating a suspense, and it also helps us relate more to the character. There are a lot of directors who show the audience what reality is and what the character does not know, but Nolan does not do that. He creates this suspense so that we can go with the character. If the character makes a mistake, we are part of that mistake, and this helps us connect to the character more. For example, if you take his movie The Prestige, now there's this one scene where Hugh Jackman is watching Christian Bale perform his magic tricks. Now Christian Bale comes up with a new magic trick which Angio or Hugh Jackman has not seen before, and he is confused in that moment how that trick is done, and we are also not shown the reality of the trick. So in that moment we are as confused as Hugh Jackman is about how the entire trick is performed. Now Hugh Jackman refuses to believe that two people are in it, and it isn't until the end that it is revealed that Christian Bale actually had a twin brother and they both used to be part of the trick. But we do not know that until the very end. That's how Nolan chooses to show his movies, so that we can connect to him and understand the character much better.
Was it good? It was the greatest magic trick I've ever seen.
Let's go on to the third point. Now, Nolan is also known for having ambiguous endings in his movies. For example, Inception. In Inception, the ending scene is where Leonardo DiCaprio is walking towards his children in the end, and he spins his top, and the top keeps spinning, and we don't know at that point whether it's reality or it's still a dream. So people assume that it is real, but then the top is spinning, and as soon as it slows down, you think it's slowing down. Nolan chooses to cut the scene right there and ends it. So the whole movie ends on that very part, and the audience is left to believe what they choose to believe, whether it's reality or he's still stuck in another dream. Now Nolan has more of a realistic style. He prefers to build his own sets instead of using a green screen. In one of the interviews that I was watching, Christopher Nolan says the idea of his narrative is more of a maze. And instead of the audience being above the maze, it's more, the audience gets more over the shoulder kind of view. The audience relate more to the character, and there's a sense of reality. Let's move on to the next director. Now this man is known as one of the founding pioneers of the new Hollywood era. He has directed about 32 movies and has written and produced many more. He is none other than Steven Spielberg. You may know him from his blockbusters like Jaws, E.T., Catch Me If You Can, Indiana Jones, and many more. Now Spielberg is known for something which other directors and critics have called the Spielberg face. Many other directors started doing that after this, but he was one of the first. So now what is a Spielberg face? This is when Spielberg decides to zoom in on the subject, and the subject's face usually has a reaction of surprise or shock at that moment, and the audience is told to react in the same way without showing us what the character is looking at. So he sort of manipulates the audience into already believing that you are supposed to be shocked or surprised at that point before we the audience can actually see what's on the screen. Spielberg is known for telling the audience how to feel. Now, whether it's done like I mentioned, the Spielberg face with the zooming in on the emotions, or it's also sometimes done with a background sound associated with particular character or a situation. For example, now if you look at Jaws, there's this part every time that there's an intense music build up, you know that the shark is about to come. Now, Spielberg is also known for his reflection shots. He has a lot of shots in the movie which show the people in the reflection. It can be the reflection of a plain glass window or the mirror. For example, take War of the Worlds. There's a scene where Tom Cruise is driving his car and then he looks into the rearview mirror and he sees the man behind getting eaten up by the monster. There's another scene in the same movie where he sees the aliens getting out of the tripod, and while he is running, the focus is on the character himself, but you can see the reflection of everything that is happening in a glass window of the store. So this helps in keeping focus on the character, yet showing the audience what is happening in the background. Another thing that is common in most of the Spielberg movies is that there are ordinary people stuck in extraordinary circumstances. So whether it's War of the Worlds, where it's a normal family living over there and suddenly aliens come and take over the world, or in Jurassic Park, where no one would ever believe that dinosaurs could come to life, because who would think dinosaurs will ever come to life? The thing that I noticed in Spielberg's movies are the fact that most of the family relations are damaged. Now there's always like a father and son whose relationship is bad, or whether, if you take for example Catch Me If You Can, the boy's parents are divorced.
Your father and I are getting a divorce.
And if you look at War of the Worlds, there the father and the son don't really get along that well. So he chooses to emphasize a lot on family. In some of his movies, of course, the bond does get better if that he tries to mend those relations. So coming to the last part of my vlog, Spielberg is also known for establishing and scene in the very beginning, telling the audience what to expect. If you see Catch Me If You Can, the very first scene shows how Frank commits fraud and becomes one of the youngest people to ever commit such a fraud. So basically what he does is establishes what the entire movie is about in that very first scene.
My name is Frank William Abagnale.
Number the chief resident pediatrician at a Georgia hospital and an assistant attorney general for the state of Louisiana. By the time I was caught, I was considered the youngest and most daring con man in U.S. history.
So I'm going to end my vlog here. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
I'll be back.